Hey everybody, Ethan here at the Smartphone Doctor. Today we have another console repair. This is an Xbox Series S, the newer one, and it has a broken HDMI port. I don't know if you can hear that or see that, but let's go ahead and get started on that. So we've already disassembled the board out of the housing of the console. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here underneath our microscope. Pop my head up like this. So let's go ahead and get a good view of our port right there. As you can see, it is split right down the middle. We'll make sure we do the HDMI port, not one of the USB ports, because that has happened to me before. Go ahead and add some Fluxaroni to the legs of the console. Go grab my Hako pencil, make sure my soldering iron is on. Always give it a little smell, get a little smoke off of it, make sure it's on. But yes, so this is actually not low melt solder. This is low temperature solder. It's 183. So don't use 138 solder or 148, which is this guy here. I use this for like iPhone boards when I'm reballing them. But we use the 183 solder for a lot of other things. So we'll go ahead, add some of that to our pencil here. And we're just flooding the factory solder on the motherboard with our low temperature solder to make sure we don't have to heat up this board as much to get this port off. And press into it a little bit there. And grab some more on my pencil here. Flood this leg here. Not a lot of people do this, but I tend to because it just makes it easier for getting off the board. You don't necessarily have to do it, but you will be putting hot air on the board for longer. But console boards are very resistant to a lot of heat, unlike a lot of iPhone boards are. So you should be just fine doing it either way. All right, perfect. So we got that guy done. Now we're going to hang this board slightly over the edge of my desk so that I can heat up this HDMI port from underneath. I'm going to go ahead and adjust our microscope here so that you can see everything. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and crank this hot air gun all the way up. Is that UPS? We're going to heat this guy up, and we're essentially just going to wait for the solder to liquefy. And while we're doing this, we're going to put some flux on this board to help this solder flow. What? The scope or the board? Is that better? Perfect. So we want to keep hot air on here for about 30-45 seconds until this guy becomes wiggly and loose, and then we'll just lift him off the board straight up. Don't want to damage any pads or anything, so we're going to wait for it to be loose. If you pull up on it and there is some resistance, that means that the solder is still on there and you could pull a pad, which a lot of inexperienced people do. So it is completely movable right now, so I'm going to lift this guy straight off the board. And as you can see, all of our pads are retained. Alright, so let's get this board out of the way. We're going to grab our new ports out of this packaging here. And we're going to go ahead and tin all of these pads. Let's add some Fluxaroni to these legs. I'm going to grab my micro tweezers. Now let's go ahead and add some solder to all of these pins here.
It'll be.
Alrighty. So all of those have some solder on there. Make sure everything's nice and neat. Perfect. So now that that is done, let's grab our board here. And we are going to add some low temperature solder to these guys so we don't have to heat them up as much. Perfect. We'll use our bigger pencil here for the bigger pads. Put a little bit, it's this back pad here that always needs a little bit more loving. We'll grab some more. Oh my goodness. It's like sucking it off of it. I always like to pre-apply the solder because I don't like to post-apply it after we get the new port on there, because sometimes it's hard to stick. And this just ensures that the legs of the new port have solder holding it in place. Perfect. So now we will hang this board ever so slightly off the edge of our desk, readjust our microscope so that you all can see. Are we good there, Adam? Oh, like that? That's good? Perfect. Alright. So let's heat up this board from underneath again. I'm going to grab my new port. I always like to set it to the right hand side of me right here. So we're going to heat this guy up. And we're going to grab a hold of this with our tweezers so that we can just slot this guy into place when everything is good. So we'll usually heat this up for maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds until the solder liquefies, and then we'll just set our new port into place. So again, we'll wait for the 4 big pads to liquefy. Alright, they have liquefied, so now we're going to gently set this guy into place. Perfect. Give it a little tap. Make sure everything is down nice and neat. We're going to remove our hot air from there. And I believe we should be good. Okay. Looks like I need to give it a little bit more love tap. I don't know. We'll have to flip this guy around and see the pins. Make sure that they're all solid. If not, we'll reflow it again from underneath. Yeah, we'll need to hit this guy again from underneath. It didn't seat all the way down. This must be the older style of the port from Injured Gadgets. This isn't the newer style where the back is removed. Okay. So we're going to heat this guy up from underneath again. Luckily we use low temperature solder, so we don't have to hit it with as much heat. But we just want this guy to flow into place. Give it some flux, back side of it. We'll wait for this to liquefy again. There we go. Give it some love taps. There we go. Alrighty. Oh, this chair always gives me issues scooting up. Alright. So that port is definitely on there. Now we will check our pins, our little hook. Where are they? There they are. Solid, solid. Oh, that one's budging, so we need to go over that guy. That one's budging as well. So is that one. Solid, 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 solid. Solid, 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 and solid. So these guys right here are budging ever so slightly, which is not a problem. So let's put some flux over all of these. Clean it up when we're done. And these are where our handy dandy micro tweezers come in. So we'll clean these guys off. Some low temp solder on there. And then as I hold the board at an angle, we will touch up on each pin. Perfect. So now let's recheck with our hook. Solid, 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 solid. Alrighty. We are in business there. Just going to go over every single pin one last time. Perfect. Perfect. So let's go ahead and clean up our mess here with all this flux we've been using. Make it nice and neat like we were never here. Grab my Q-tip, possibly. See if Q-tip will do. Perfect. Nah, Q-tip will be fine. Perfect. Cut off the port a little. Nice. We'll clean up the underneath side. And as you can see, we have nice little pillows there over our legs of our new ports. This little solder ball, this Q-tip's wearing out on me. I'm going to grab a new one. Alrighty. Clean up our little area. We're going to wipe it all off with a nice little microfiber wipe. Perfect. Well, we are going to go test this guy out in our console. All the pins right there look pretty solid. So, we are done repairing this guy. We're going to go throw it in our console, test it out, make sure everything turns on, and then we'll seal it, put a new thermal paste over the CPU there, and they'll be all good to go. We'll go do that. Are you rolling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. So we just finished up the HDMI replacement on this guy. We plugged everything in. There's not really a lot of stuff to plug in on this console. It's just a fan and the power supply. But we'll go ahead and press our power button there. We'll get our little chime, and the console shoots right on because the newer drives, or newer consoles, use SSDs. But yes, console's everything on and working. We'll take our HDMI port. We'll give it the wiggle test. We'll wiggle it pretty thoroughly there. Everything seems pretty sturdy. No lines through the screen or static. So we are all good. If you need a repair done like this, we do mail-ins. So come see us at the Smartphone Doctor here in Springfield, Missouri. Thank you so much.